Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you can change the trajectory of your life. Every day, millions say they want to improve their English, but only a few actually do. Why? Not because they lack ability, but because they underestimate the power of a simple, consistent routine. If you're ready to elevate your voice, your opportunities, your future, then lean in. Here are 6 daily actions that can transform your English, your confidence, and the way the world listens to you. Morning routines are not just habits, they are declarations. They set the tone for who you choose to be for the next 24 hours. When you start your morning with a 5-minute English warm-up, you are not simply practicing a language, you are aligning yourself with a greater vision of who you want to become. Think about the first sounds you allow into your day. Are they the echoes of yesterday's doubts, or the sound of a stronger, more confident voice being shaped inside you? When you take those 5 minutes and read something out loud, you're not just exercising your vocal cords, you're commanding your mind to wake up, focus, and rise. It's a small ritual, but it carries a powerful message. I'm showing up for myself today. That single act of showing up can shift the entire direction of your day, because once you start with intention, everything else follows with purpose. Most people underestimate how deeply language shapes identity. What you say, how you say it, directly influences how you think, how you feel, and how you carry yourself into the world. When you speak English out loud in the morning, you're not only practicing pronunciation, you're establishing a relationship with your voice. You're telling yourself that you deserve to be heard, that your ideas deserve to move beyond your mind and find expression. Even if it's just a paragraph from a news article, a quote from a book, or a short passage from something you love. The act of vocalizing it gives you control. At first it may feel awkward, maybe even uncomfortable, but that's exactly the point. Growth rarely feels smooth in the beginning, but it always feels worth it in the end. And the moment you hear yourself sounding a little clearer, a little stronger, a little more certain, something inside you shifts. You begin to believe that fluency isn't a distant dream, it's a daily practice. Imagine standing in your room, sunlight creeping in, holding your phone or a book, and reading words that don't just pass through your lips but activate something powerful within you. You feel your mouth forming sounds it's not used to. You shape syllables with intention. You stretch your comfort zone in real time. That process is more than language learning. It's brain training. Every morning you're rewiring the way your mind processes English. You're building familiarity, reducing hesitation, and strengthening neural pathways. And the best part? It only takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes that most people waste scrolling, snoozing, or drifting through autopilot. But not you. You're creating a habit that compounds. Because those 5 minutes aren't about quantity, they're about consistency. They're about planting a seed that grows roots deeper than you can see today. The power of this routine lies in repetition. If you do it for 1 day, you feel good. If you do it for 1 week, you feel progress. But when you commit to doing it every day, that's when transformation happens. You'll start to notice a change in how easily words come to you. Sentences start forming faster. Pronunciation feels smoother. Your tongue finds its rhythm. That hesitation you once had begins to fade. Because speaking is a muscle, and like any muscle, it strengthens with use. Warm-ups matter, not just for athletes, not just for performers, but for anyone who uses their voice as a tool to create opportunities. And whether you realize it or not, your voice is one of your greatest assets. This routine sharpens it, elevates it, trains it to rise with confidence. Even beyond language, this 5-minute ritual teaches discipline. It teaches you to honor your goals before the world asks anything of you. It teaches you to prioritize growth first thing in the morning before distractions dilute your energy. And when you build that discipline into your foundation, it shows up in every area of your life. You communicate differently, you walk differently, you enter conversations with presence, you respond instead of react, you listen more intentionally, you become someone who doesn't wait for the perfect moment, you create the moment by taking the first step, and it all begins with that simple choice to start your day speaking English out loud. a choice that signals direction, intention, and identity. And here's the truth that most people overlook. The improvement you're seeking isn't just about speaking better English. It's about unlocking a version of yourself that knows how to show up every single day with purpose. When you stand in front of your mirror or sit on your bed in the quiet of the morning and give yourself those 5 minutes, you're not just practicing a language, you're practicing courage, you're practicing commitment, you're practicing becoming someone who doesn't just dream of being fluent but takes real action to make it happen. That's where the real power lies. Because language mastery is not built in hours, it's built in moments. And these moments, these 5-minute bursts of focus, are building blocks for a future where you speak with clarity, confidence, and the undeniable energy of someone who knows exactly who they are becoming. Your voice is your power. Start your day by choosing to strengthen it. Most people think learning English requires hours of studying, endless grammar rules, or complicated lessons, but the truth is far simpler and far more empowering. Mastery begins with one small daily decision: choosing a single word and owning it. Not studying it, not memorizing it, owning it. One word a day can sound almost too simple, but simplicity is exactly what makes it life-changing. When you strip away the overwhelm and focus your energy on one tiny piece of the language, you make the process accessible, manageable, and sustainable. You give your mind room to breathe, to absorb, to connect. One word becomes a seed, and every time you use it throughout the day, you water that seed. Before long, that tiny word holds meaning, memory, and confidence. That's how real learning starts. Not by drowning yourself in information, but by illuminating one small corner at a time until the whole room gets brighter. Learning a word deeply means giving it dimension. It's not just knowing the definition, you feel its purpose. You explore how it sounds when you say it, how it behaves inside a sentence, how it shifts meaning depending on context. When you learn a word like this, it stops being an abstract idea. It becomes an instrument you can play. Think about how a musician practices a single note until it becomes part of their instinct. That's you, practicing a single word until it becomes part of your voice. And the best part is, you don't need anyone to teach you. You don't need a classroom. You don't need perfection. You just need curiosity and consistency. Every time you use that word in conversation, note-taking, journaling, or even in your inner thoughts, you are building fluency. You are constructing your English, one meaningful piece at a time. And there is something powerful, almost psychological, about choosing a word and saying, "This is mine today." It gives you control over your progress. Most people feel lost when learning a language because they don't know where to begin. They jump from topic to topic, overwhelmed by everything they feel they don't know. But when you claim one word, you carve out a small win. A victory you can see, feel, and measure. That victory reinforces your confidence. It tells your brain, "I'm capable. I'm growing. I'm moving forward." Confidence is the engine of fluency, and this tiny ritual fuels it every single day. With enough practice, that confidence becomes louder than your doubts, stronger than your hesitation, and bigger than your fear of making mistakes. Using your word 3 times a day is where the magic really happens. It pushes you from passive learning into active application. You start searching for ways to insert the word into your day, maybe during a conversation with a friend, maybe in a message you send, maybe while describing something to yourself. The moment you use it in real life, your brain locks it in. You're not just practicing English, you're practicing courage, adaptability, and creative thinking. And when you use that word in different situations, you begin understanding its personality. You see how flexible it is, how it interacts with other words, how it fits into the rhythm of English. This practice transforms words from strangers into familiar companions. And the more familiar they become, the faster your confidence grows. Over weeks and months, something incredible begins to happen. 1 word a day becomes 7 words a week. 7 words a week becomes hundreds within months. Hundreds of words become a foundation strong enough to support your expression, your voice, your presence. Vocabulary builds like compound interest. The more you invest, the more powerfully it multiplies. And as your vocabulary grows, your world expands. You start understanding movies faster. You catch nuances in conversations. You express yourself not just adequately, but accurately and confidently. You start sounding like someone who doesn't simply speak English. You command it. And all of that begins with the simple discipline of choosing one word and facing it every single day. But the true transformation goes beyond language. When you make this part of your daily routine, you're training your mind to focus on growth, even in the middle of chaos or busy schedules. You're teaching yourself that improvement doesn't require enormous effort, it requires consistent effort. This kind of discipline affects everything in your life. You become more intentional. You become more attentive. You learn to appreciate the small steps that lead to big results. And more importantly, you learn to trust yourself. You learn to trust your ability to commit, to evolve, to break barriers one day at a time. Because the moment you choose a word, you are choosing progress. And when you choose progress every day, it becomes impossible to remain the same person you were yesterday. One word a day isn't just a language practice. It's a promise to yourself that you're becoming stronger, sharper, and more unstoppable with every step you take. Most people move through their commute like it's dead time they just have to get through. But what they don't realize is that this in-between space can become one of the most valuable parts of their day. Your commute, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, can transform into a private classroom where you build fluency without pressure, judgment, or performance. When you choose to fill that time with English, podcasts, conversations, audiobooks, interviews, you shift the meaning of your day. You're no longer stuck in traffic or waiting to arrive. You're learning, you're growing, you're expanding your mind, while the world around you barely notices. And this is what separates dreamers from doers. Dreamers wait for perfect conditions. Doers use whatever they have, wherever they are, to rise. Listening to English during your commute trains your ears in a way textbooks never can. You begin recognizing natural tones, rhythms, and patterns that only native speakers use. You start to hear the subtle variations in pronunciation, how words blend, how sentences flow, how speakers emphasize certain ideas. These are not things you can memorize from a page. They must be absorbed. And when you surround yourself with real voices, real expressions, and real conversations, your brain begins to mirror them automatically. Without even trying, you start picking up pacing, intonation, and confidence. You learn the music of the language. That natural exposure becomes one of the most powerful tools you have, and it happens quietly, consistently, almost effortlessly. There's also something empowering about making learning a part of your daily lifestyle instead of a forced activity. When English becomes your background soundtrack, your brain stops treating it like a foreign challenge and starts treating it like a familiar environment. That shift is what accelerates fluency. Suddenly, English is not something you practice once in a while. It becomes part of the world you live in. You begin thinking small thoughts in English. You begin narrating your surroundings in English. You begin asking yourself questions in English. And once you start thinking in the language, half the battle is already won. Fluency isn't just about speaking, it's about alignment between your thoughts and your words. Your commute gives you the perfect opportunity to build that alignment every single day. And it's not just about listening, it's about engagement. When you hear a sentence you like, repeat it, mimic the speaker, copy their emotion, their clarity, their rhythm. Nobody's watching you in your car, nobody cares what you whisper on the bus. And even if they do notice, so what? Their opinions won't build your future, your practice will. Every time you echo a phrase you hear, you're training your mouth to produce sounds that once felt impossible. You're strengthening your speaking muscles in real time. You're turning passive listening into active learning. That shift, small but powerful, creates exponential growth. Before you know it, sentences that once felt complicated start rolling off your tongue with ease. One of the greatest advantages of using your commute as training time is the emotional depth you gain from the content you choose. Podcasts and interviews tap into real experiences, real vulnerability, real wisdom. As you listen, you don't just learn English, you connect to stories, perspectives, and moments that move you. That emotional connection amplifies your learning because the brain remembers what it feels, not just what it hears. When you listen to someone describe their challenges, their victories, their passions, you internalize the language on a deeper level. Your favorite hosts become like mentors, guiding your mind forward every day, even as you drive, walk, or sit on a train. They teach you new vocabulary, new expressions, new ways of thinking, all without you ever feeling like you're studying. And the most beautiful part of all of this is that you don't need extra time, extra energy, or extra resources. You're simply transforming something you already do, travel from one place to another, into a daily investment in your growth. This is how successful people operate. They take the moments others overlook and turn them into moments of power. They turn routine into opportunity. They turn boredom into learning. They turn silence into mastery. When you treat your commute as your own private classroom, you give yourself an advantage most people will never realize they could have. And once you experience the transformation, you'll never look at free time the same way again. Your commute isn't wasted time. It's the hidden doorway to the fluent, confident, unstoppable version of yourself you've been working toward. There is a moment in every learner's journey when they realize that speaking isn't just a skill, it's a confrontation with themselves. When you take 60 seconds every day and speak out loud, with no script, no judgment, no corrections, you are stepping into that confrontation. You are facing your own hesitation, your fear of mistakes, your insecurity about how you sound. And in that moment, something extraordinary happens. You start discovering your real voice in English, not the voice you imagine, not the voice you hope for, but the voice that exists right now. This practice forces you to meet yourself exactly where you are. And that honesty is the ground where real progress grows. You're not hiding behind silence anymore. You're not waiting for permission. You're choosing to speak, to express, to strengthen your voice, bit by bit, day by day. Recording yourself for 60 seconds might seem simple, but it is one of the most transformative habits you can develop. When the camera or microphone is on, you become aware of how your mind reaches for words, how your mouth shapes sounds, how your thoughts move from one idea to the next. You notice gaps, you notice patterns, you notice growth. This awareness is powerful because the greatest improvements come from seeing yourself clearly. Too many learners avoid speaking because they're afraid of hearing their own mistakes. But your mistakes are not enemies, they're guides. They show you exactly what to build, what to refine, what to practice. And when you listen to your recording, not to criticize but to understand, you become your own coach. You start to recognize progress you didn't even realize you were making. There is an incredible liberation in speaking without editing yourself. For 60 seconds, you're not chasing perfection. You're allowing English to flow through you, messy or smooth, fast or slow. That freedom is where fluency begins. Fluency isn't about perfect grammar. It's about momentum. It's about trusting your mind enough to speak without freezing. When you let yourself talk about your day, your feelings, your plans, your thoughts, you are training your brain to think in English instead of translating from your native language. That shift is massive. It takes you from memorizing the language to actually living inside it. The more you practice these 1-minute bursts, the easier it becomes to express yourself naturally. You begin to realize that your voice has strength, even when it trembles. And here's something most people never understand. Speaking alone builds courage for speaking with others. When you get used to hearing your own voice, the fear of speaking in real conversation starts to fade. You become comfortable with your rhythm, your tone, your accent. You stop being ashamed of how you sound because you've trained your ears to accept and eventually admire your progress. Speaking alone is like rehearsing your identity. You learn how to introduce yourself, how to describe your experiences, how to express your ideas. These small daily moments of expression prepare you for bigger moments. Job interviews, presentations, conversations with native speakers, opportunities that once felt intimidating. When you give yourself 60 seconds a day to speak without fear, you don't just improve your English, you strengthen the voice that will carry you into the life you're meant to live. When you choose to make English part of your entertainment, you're doing something far deeper than simply watching shows or listening to music. You're giving your brain permission to learn without pressure. Entertainment is emotional. It's immersive. It's the part of your day when you're relaxed, open, and genuinely enjoying yourself. And that state of mind is exactly where learning becomes effortless. When you watch your favorite series in English, you aren't forcing anything. You're absorbing. You're noticing expressions, tones, laughter, tension. You're experiencing the language the way native speakers live it. And that kind of exposure has a power that no textbook, no lesson, no formal class can ever replicate. It's language in its natural habitat, and you get to sit front row. Think about the way you learned your native language. It wasn't through memorizing verbs or filling in worksheets. It was through listening, observing, laughing, repeating, reacting. Watching English shows or movies replicates that natural learning process. You start picking up everyday phrases, things people actually say, not the stiff robotic lines found in textbooks. You notice sarcasm, emotion, timing, humor, cultural cues. Even silence carries meaning, and your brain absorbs all of it without you even realizing. You begin to recognize patterns, how people build sentences, how they transition ideas, how they express excitement, frustration, affection. Those patterns become familiar, and familiarity breeds confidence. Soon, you're not just understanding English, you're feeling it. Music adds another layer to this. Songs stay with you. They repeat in your mind. They replay in your heart. They carry emotion in a way that makes language unforgettable. When you listen to English music, you're practicing rhythm, pronunciation, flow. You learn how words stretch, how they compress, how they bend inside melodies. Sometimes a single line from a song can teach you more about expression than an entire grammar lesson. And when you find yourself humming those lyrics throughout the day, at work, in the shower, on a walk, you're practicing without trying. That subconscious repetition builds your fluency from the inside out. It makes English not just something you study, but something you live. And then there's social media, one of the most underestimated tools for learning. Following English-speaking creators turns your feed into a constant stream of language input. Funny clips, motivational videos, storytelling, commentary, behind-the-scenes moments. You get raw, unfiltered English in real time. Not scripted, not polished, real. You see how people speak casually, how they exaggerate, how they joke, how they express opinions. You pick up slang, idioms, modern phrases that aren't found in traditional textbooks. You understand how tone changes meaning. You begin to sense what sounds natural and what sounds awkward. Social media gives you access to millions of voices, and the more diverse the voices you hear, the stronger and more flexible your own English becomes. But the true magic happens when entertainment becomes immersion. When English stops feeling like a subject and starts feeling like an environment. Immersion is when your brain stops translating and starts thinking directly in English. It's when the language becomes second nature. Watching shows, listening to music, scrolling through English content, it surrounds you. It changes the background noise of your life. You begin understanding without effort. You start predicting what characters will say. You catch jokes instantly. You feel the meaning behind phrases without needing to break them down. That sense of natural understanding builds confidence faster than any formal method. And this confidence doesn't stay in your mind. It pours into your speaking, your writing, your energy, your presence. What makes this routine so powerful is that it doesn't drain you. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't require extra time carved out of your schedule. It flows into your existing habits. Instead of watching something in your native language, you watch it in English. Instead of listening to a usual playlist, you mix in English songs. Instead of scrolling your usual content, you follow English creators. That simple shift multiplies your exposure and accelerates your learning. And because it feels enjoyable, you stick with it. Consistency is effortless when the process is fun. And the moment you combine enjoyment with learning, you unlock a level of fluency that feels natural, powerful, and deeply rooted. You don't just study English, you begin to breathe it. When English becomes part of what you love, fluency stops being a struggle and becomes an unstoppable, enjoyable evolution of who you are becoming. At the end of every day, there is a moment when the world quiets down, when the noise fades, the responsibilities pause, and you finally have a second to breathe. That moment is sacred, and what you choose to do with it says everything about the person you're becoming. When you end your day by writing just one sentence in English, you are not completing a task. You're closing your day with intention. You're telling yourself that growth matters even in the smallest ways. You're choosing reflection over distraction, progress over passivity, clarity over chaos. People think transformation happens through dramatic actions, but the truth is far more subtle. It's one sentence, one thought, one moment of presence. This tiny ritual is where discipline meets self-respect. Writing a single line forces your mind to pause and acknowledge the day you lived. It anchors your thoughts. It shapes your awareness. It gives you a snapshot of who you were today and who you're trying to be tomorrow. Maybe you write about something you learned. Maybe you write about something you felt. Maybe you write about something you wish you had done better. It doesn't matter what the sentence says. What matters is that it's yours, your truth, your experience, your voice captured on a page. And when you write in English, you're training your language skills through introspection, through honesty. That combination is rare and powerful because language becomes more meaningful when it connects to your real life, not just abstract practice. Over time, this one-line habit becomes a mirror. Each sentence tells a small story, and those stories accumulate. You begin to notice patterns, how your vocabulary grows, how your sentences start flowing more naturally, how your confidence builds week by week. You start seeing evidence of your growth instead of just hoping for it. And that evidence is priceless. It keeps you motivated on the days when you feel slow. It reminds you of your strength on the days when doubt creeps in. Every sentence becomes a brick in the foundation you're building. You're not just improving your English, you're documenting your evolution. You're creating a written timeline of who you are becoming, and that timeline strengthens your identity. What makes this nightly ritual so impactful is that it forces consistency, the kind of consistency few people ever master. Anyone can study when they're excited, anyone can practice when they feel motivated, but ending your day with a single sentence, no matter how tired you are, no matter how busy your schedule was, teaches you something deeper: commitment. You learn to show up for yourself even in the smallest ways. And the people who achieve greatness in anything, language, career, life, are the people who show up when it's easiest to walk away. This habit trains your mind to keep promises to yourself. And once you learn how to keep small promises, you unlock the ability to keep big ones. It also trains clarity. Writing forces you to slow down your thoughts. You choose your words. You create structure. You reflect instead of react. That clarity spills into your speaking. It spills into your thinking. It spills into your emotional intelligence. You begin to understand yourself better because you articulate your feelings, your experiences, your dreams with intention. And when you understand yourself more deeply, you communicate more powerfully. That one sentence becomes a daily exercise in expression. It strengthens the link between your mind and your voice. And the more you express yourself, the more fluent you become, not just in English, but in your own identity. And here's the part that truly matters. Every sentence you write is a reminder that your journey doesn't have to be overwhelming to be meaningful. Progress doesn't require an hour. It doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. The presence to sit with yourself for one quiet moment and say, I'm growing. When you write that sentence, you close your day with intention and begin training your subconscious to wake up stronger the next morning. You're reinforcing the belief that you are capable, disciplined, and committed. And belief is the foundation of transformation. With time, you begin to realize something powerful. This small nightly habit doesn't just improve your English, it reshapes your mindset. It sharpens your focus. It strengthens your resilience. It turns your daily life into proof that you are evolving. One sentence each night is more than a routine. It is the silent promise that you are ending. Every day wiser, stronger, and one step closer to the person you're destined to become.